I want to talk about how anime has really fallen, probably I'd say in the last 10 years. There used to be like, this is just as in comparison, this is Gunslinger Girl 2003. And anime was really pumped up late 90s, early 2000s. And just for example, this is one where the anime is about like they take these young girls, they turn them into cyborgs, and they become assassins, right? This young girl, there's multiple of girls. There's this guy who's her handler, so these are military men that have never been married, they don't have any children, and they all of a sudden have to become like a father figure to these girls. And the girls are conditioned to like their handlers, and so they're in love with their handlers, but not in a romantic sense, just in the true blue, uh I love you, in the way that a daughter would love her father. And so that's what the whole anime is about, really. Even though they have all these others like science fiction, they're not really like that. For example, like Ghost in the Shell was very much about showing the major in her, you know, the upkeep of her robotics. It was very much about talking about the cybernetics and the you know implementation of machinery into the person's body. And Gunslinger Girl isn't about that, even because after all, first, you wouldn't put cyborg parts in a person who's still body's still growing. But also, if they were going to do this, they would do it to boys, you know, like the Gundam series, right? But the point is, you have to suspend all disbelief because it's really about her relationship with this man, and and how they get along. And many of these male characters don't know how to deal with, a little girl who has needs and who's in love with them. And again, it's not sexual. It's not, they love them as a parent, and they don't know how to be parents. There's no fan service involved in this, by the way. And this is like, it, it's sad because I'm an old man. 2003 doesn't seem long ago to me, but it is long. It's 18 years. If something's 10 years ago, it's a long time ago. And so you guys who are younger, it's 10 years ago is a long time. This is almost 20. And there's been a huge change, especially like if you notice, they don't have the overly sized eyes that they have in anime today. I mean, they've always had it, but in these series, they were able to tone it down, just as an example. For example, this young girl, she's in love with her handler, of course, and he doesn't he's not in love with her. He just sees her as a means to an end, right? So when she fails, he just calls her useless. And so she realizes he's never going to love me, and yet I'm in love with him, and there's nothing to do. So it's such a sad, sad story. It's really beautiful, and I've watched and I loved every bit of it. And I think they don't make these anime anymore like this. Of the you know the art style, the animation style, I should say, this deep, profound story. Like I say, all the action is cool to watch, but it's all framed around what's really important, which is these girls' relationships with their handlers, which basically are, grown men, basically father daughter relationships. I mean, but take Harem anime. Like when it first came out and I was watching it, I said, wow, this is totally new to me. You don't see anything like this in the West, where they've taken a guy and said, okay, here's your fantasy. you know. But you see, this is like dessert. It's part of a big meal. And what I find now, the instead of having cake with icing, you're basically getting like a buying a bottle of icing and eating it straight. You know, it's like you see it so much now that that's all that seems to be out there. And I really think this has to do in part to the deselection of guys. Like this is the guys have nothing but fantasy to go for. The average young guy is not getting the girl. So something like this that was like this is to Lavru, that was coming out once in a while. Now it is the majority of anime coming out. Like for those of you who aren't familiar, like take something like ReZero. There's lots of anime like this where the young guy dies, or he goes into a computer game and he kicks ass, right? Like his life is reset and he's the hero in it. Not a bad fantasy at all. But the point is, this is standard fare now. This is, you, you see it all the time. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Same idea. It's always this kind of fantasy. You know, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Another one. But they're all harems in the end. And don't get me wrong, like I love my harems, but like I say, it's dessert. It's become the standard. Where was all the great anime of the past? You know what I mean? I mean, take something like Shield Hero. Shield Hero had potential. It's basically the hashtag Me Too video, or I should say anime, where he gets falsely accused by some woman. Everyone just turns on him automatically. Woman's word against a man, it's over. And they could have really made this anime about something, but it failed in the end because they ruined it by having him basically rescued by, a harem girl. He gets his harem, he's got his girl, and she backs him. And so anything that could have been said, in a political level or some kind of storyline was just dead. It just became like, well, not like it became that he was rescued by this girl. This girl backed me up and rescued me from my situation, so everything's good. So it just becomes more girl worship. So this is what's happening. Like the deselection of guys is really making things bad, because it affects their preferences. It selects what they want to see on screen. And so all the really cool anime of the past, you just don't see anymore. It's basically all harem and fantasy, anime coming out now. Take something like Serial Experiments Lane. Do you see anime like this anymore? And you see the eyes size are kind of downplayed, and it actually helps. But it's like I love my fan service, but in doses. And now it has become standard. Whereas a story like this, that was a real mind bender, they don't make those anymore. I won't bother showing you a clip. I mean, copyright will just stop it, right? So just you can look for yourself, Serial Experiments Lane, and check out for yourself. There was all kinds of very cool anime, late 90s, early 2000s, that are just gone. I mean, look, every new isekai and fantasy anime from next season, 2021. I don't need to show anything. It's just this is the standard now. I think, geez, how sad it was from the past. Here, I'll show you another good one. Witch Hunter Robin. I believe this was late 90s. Again, the eyes are downplayed. It was a very great story. There was no fan service. Don't get me wrong, I love my fan service, but you know what I'm saying is that this is the quality that used to be with anime you don't see anymore. Is guys are desperate, you know. So it's really on its way out. That and the fact that feminists are destroying it. You know, they're worming their way in, and now they're going to work their magic. So there's nothing left. But it really is a sad state of affairs. It's something I used to love very dearly. Now it's dying, and it's really too bad. Goodbye, everyone.